Hey guys, Mike Toy with Bonsai Boise. So this is one of my silver maples. This is going on about 9 years, maybe 10 years old now. I'm going to repot it out of this ugly training pot, which is actually just a plastic oil pan. Super classy, I know. And I'm going to be trimming it back a lot. So I'm going to do this in 2 phases. By the way, this is the pot it's going to go in. So it's a little bit better. I still wanted to give it enough room to grow. So it's kind of a training pot, but it's slightly more attractive. Slightly. As for the decisions on trimming, I'm going to take it back quite a bit. And you might be asking why. Look at all this awesome ramification and all these branch structures that it's got going on. And I agree, it is nice. And I'm still halfway on the fence about it. But I'm going to do it probably, and I'll tell you why. Because we've got this same size trunk all the way up, which has awesome movement, by the way, I love that. But it's the same size. There's no taper at all. And so I think some trunk chops are needed. This still has a long way to go. So just a little bit of the long-term vision here. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is take it somewhere down around, I don't know if I'm doing it justice, but kind of like somewhere in that neighborhood. I've got some decisions to make on when, where to do it. I still don't even know which side is the front, honestly. And that's something I love about this tree, is that it's kind of got multiple options. You could use that as a front, somewhere in this neighborhood, or the other side, or really even like that right there. I mean, it's kind of got a lot of cool perspectives, almost no matter what angle you look at it from, almost. Last year when I did some trims on it, I took off, had another branch about this size here, took it off. You can see it's healing over and almost healed all the way over in 1 year. This might have been last year or maybe the year before. I've got some clips from last year and the year before. So I'm going to play those clips now so you can kind of get caught up on how it got to this stage and some of the struggles it has seen a couple years ago. So let's take a look at those old clips. So this is a silver maple that I've had for a couple of years. And this is one of the trees that kind of, when I sprayed it with insecticide, I think it was called Z1. I'm not saying that was the cause. I'm just trying to find the pattern and anything that could be the cause. I sprayed it with that along with some other trees, and many of the trees, the leaves turned yellow and started falling off and wilting and then sort of deformed. The best way I can describe it is like little alien hands. Let me see if I can find a good example here. There's one. So it's just, that's just one example. Like a little alien hand type leaf there. I'm just gonna rip one of these off so we can get a look at it. So it's just kind of weird. Just, these clusters of leaves and buds and stems and everything. This is just one little spot. See that? For a minute I couldn't figure out which one was the front, because that kind of looks like the front, but then that kind of looks like the front. After I thought about it for a while, I realized I'm just going to get rid of this altogether. So here goes. And I'll clean this up in a second. So there they are. As you can see, it's always had cool character, but that's a little history of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work now. I'm going to do some cuts, and I'll do it in a little bit fast forward. I'll still I'll do the audio over that so I can explain kind of my decision process. And that's probably it for tonight. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up and repot it. So follow me and let's get to cutting and get dirty. Okay, so here we go. So like I was saying, I'm going to take it back pretty hard. Somewhere in this general vicinity right here. Give or take a little bit, but that's kind of the idea of how far back I plan to take it. And like I said, I was on the fence. I could have gone either way because I do like the branching on it and the structure, but sometimes you just got to make big cuts to get the taper. That's the one drawback of this tree. I don't know if drawback is the right word, but the one aspect to it that I wasn't real happy with was it had no taper. It was pretty much the same thickness from almost from top to bottom. Big cuts. What I do like about this tree is that I had lots of options. I love having lots of options. I could have done kind of a windswept look, as you can see there, where it's like at this point it's facing the left, like it was sweeping to the left. Could have gone with something like that, and I sort of inadvertently kind of did that, but that's not really the style that I'm going for with this. That branch there that I'm touching right now, I kind of didn't like how extreme right it's going there, where the bigger trunk that it's coming off of goes up, and then it just goes like it cuts off like a 90-degree angle to the right, or if you're looking at it from the other side, to the left. So I noticed this. I believe that's scale. It's some type of bug. I don't know. I see it on maples and ash trees. I've heard it's not harmful. I've heard it is. I don't know. Pretty much just got to scrape it off and it comes right off. I'm sure it's not good. I've seen extremely bad infestations of it in places, but I've never gotten that one too bad. So after I made the big cuts here, I'm just going along and taking some of these branches that are left over and just taking it down to maybe 2 buds. But these silver maples, even when you can't see buds, it seems like there's always some there, or it'll just sprout a bud out of nowhere. They back bud real easy, basically is what I'm getting at there. You can see some of the scars from last year's big cut there and years past. One thing I'll point out too, with these big cuts and these wounds, I just use this clear, non-toxic glue. It's not Elmer's glue, it's some other off-brand, but it's just clear, it says non-toxic, safe. And it's been working well. In fact, I think this was the first tree I tried it on, if I'm not mistaken, about a year ago. And as you can see, that the scar there, it's healing up fine. There it is. I pay $1 for that bottle, and it's the same bottle from last year, and I use it whenever I'm making big cuts on any of my trees. I'm sure some of the nice, expensive Japanese cut paste is probably better. It probably heals better, but I don't have any of that, so I'm using this. A little about silver maples here while I'm putting the final touches on. I've had several silver maples, and I still have several. And I'll say that they are very hardy. They can take a lot. I mean, you can hack them way, way back. just as an experiment, I've cut them in half. Not because I'm, like cutting my trees in half, but I had one in my yard at one point a few years ago that just in the wrong place and it was too big to dig up. So I cut it in half thinking it would die. It didn't. Probably more than half, really. I cut it maybe, I bet it was 15 feet tall, and I cut it down to about a 3-foot stump. And it was about maybe 8 to 12 inches thick. I can't really remember now. And it just sprouted buds all over. So they're real tough. They do not like to dry out. They're not super hardy in that way. Whereas, for example, I have a different type of maple. I have a Shantung maple, which is actually Chinese, not Japanese. And that is actually hardy for drought as well. Silver maples are not. They like a lot of water, but they don't like to sit in water. Like, say, for example, a willow tree can sit in water. Silver maples don't like that. So you gotta have good draining soil. Speaking of which, that's what I'm doing here. It's only got one drainage hole in this, so I'm hoping that this doesn't backfire on me, but I'm putting a lot of that's pea gravel that I put over the drainage hole, and then I'm putting really good porous bonsai soil in after that. So I'm hoping that that works fine. So far it is. It's been a couple weeks now. So those are all the same rocks I used to anchor it in there 5 years ago. I went back and looked, and it was the summer of, 4 years ago. I just redid the math. Summer of 2018 when I potted it up in here. And it is root bound. Well, depends on what you call root bound. It wasn't to the point yet where they were circling around over and over and over. There was a little bit there, as you can see, but I've had much worse. So it was, if not root bound, it was maybe a minor version of being root bound, and it was well on its way. So I knew I didn't want to push it another year. I wanted to get to it last year and didn't get to it. I have a weird little surprise in here that I had long forgotten about. Before I get to that, I'll point out my pie cutting method here. It's something I do when I'm going to be trimming a lot of roots. Before I do any raking out or anything, I just go around and I cut into it just like a pie. And then from there I cut around, and it's just so much easier that way. That way you're not combing out roots that you're not going to keep anyways. You're not wasting time and energy and effort. And it just makes the trimming process a lot easier, because then you're taking it off in chunks. I will say that the roots looked good. And unfortunately I didn't get a good angle of this part, so I was really bummed afterwards. So sorry for the bad angle. You can still kind of see it though. And I'll spare you a lot of the grudgery, because that took a while to get it down to this point. But as you can see, I forgot I was doing a root over rock thing on this. I don't know how I forgot, but I somehow forgot. And there was a couple others that I pulled them out thinking, oh man, that's weird. And then after I pulled out a couple of them, I stopped at that one and went, oh wait, I remember what I was doing now. It was a root over rock. So I left that one in there, and I decided I'm just going to keep going with that. So there it is. It's a nice fit. I'm going to go give the roots a nice rinse. Some of that soil is just regular earth from when I dug it out of the ground. I dug it out of the ground, put it in a pot, and then in 2018 I sort of just slip potted it into that training pot that it was in. So a lot of that is just regular old earth. And I know this is going to sound like sacrilege to a lot of people, and Nigel Saunders is going to be so disappointed in me for this. Look away, Nigel. But I actually don't do a whole lot of raking out of the roots at this point. And I do understand the consequences of that. But my theory is, and we'll see if this turns out to be true, the roots that you don't rake out just end up fusing together, which also helps build up a root base. I've sort of accidentally figured that out on a tree or two. I mean, when you can rake it out, great, do it. But if the tree's not in like fantastic health, sometimes bare rooting it and cutting back can hurt it a lot. So oftentimes I'll just leave the root ball intact and just trim it down, let it grow out roots again, trim it back to the root ball, repot it again, etc., repeat. And with maples, pretty much any year, as long as it's healthy and as long as you do it at the right time of year, you can always do a big root correction if you want to. So I'm not suggesting that my way is the right way or the best way. I'm just saying it's my way. It's kind of the way that I do it. Okay, Nigel, you can look again. I'm done talking about that. So I decided to keep on keeping on here with the root over rock thing. So I suck at Tetris. I'm just going to say that for what it's worth. As you can see here, I'm trying to stick it into the roots as best that I can. And one more note on, not doing a whole lot of root raking. That was kind of the point of this one too, was keeping the roots looking sort of wild. I saw the inspiration for this tree years ago. I saw a silver maple on a washed out riverbed type spot, and it just kept the river would rise and then wash away and rise and wash away, so it had this really cool exposed root look. I have a little video of it, so I'll post a link for that here where you can see it. I call it the most interesting silver maple in the world. I'm assuming it is, at least. Yeah, so anyways, I wanted to continue with that look. I'm keeping it wild, and eventually I'm going to start with the root over rock thing. I've gotten too aggressive with it before with trees and it backfired. So now my approach is to just slowly over time remove just a little bit of soil, like half a centimeter. Let it acclimate, let the roots kind of harden. Then after a while, another half centimeter, etc. You got to make it relative to the size of the tree. If it's just a little tree, you want to go take away less, but you get the idea. So that's what I'm going to do here. Sticking the rocks in, and I'm going to slowly remove a little bit of the soil after a few months, and then after a few more months. So we'll see how it goes. That's another reason why I wanted to continue with this in kind of a bigger pot with a lot of depth, so I could do that. I was going to do that just for the sake of the root base, but now that I remembered it's a root over rock look, even better. I will say silver maples, I have air layered them. They air layer pretty good. I'm told you can take cuttings. I've tried it a few times and it didn't really work, but I was only halfway trying. I've never really concentrated a whole lot of effort on it. I'm told that you can take cuttings from these. Also, I've never had to, because silver maples here in Boise, Idaho, I mean, they're just everywhere. If you've got a neighbor within 3 blocks that has a big old silver maple in their yard, chances are the little helicopter leaves will land in your yard by the thousands. And so you just go dig them up. Around, I want to say about June or so, June or July. You start seeing little tiny silver maples popping up everywhere. That's how this one started, about 2013, so about 9 years ago. So this is the other part that is unglamorous and pretty dirty. Working it into the roots. So here's a finished product of it. Finished for now, I'll say. So it's a work in progress. I'm still not 100% satisfied with the taper. I kind of feel now like I maybe should take it back further. like just that top section, maybe lop off that top section and just keep the supporting branches on the right and the left. We'll get to that here in a second. For now, let's take a look here at the root base. So that's how it looked. Just stuck a whole bunch of rocks in there of all different shapes and sizes. Give you a closer look. It's almost like a claw. It's like the root base just sort of like claws down and like a hand or something. It just grabs a handful of rocks. It's kind of what it reminds me of. I like that kind of stuff. I like it when a tree starts to take on characteristics that you weren't even trying for. It just happened on its own. So it's all natural that way. I mean, I like it when you try something on these trees and that succeeds. That's also cool. But it's a different type of cool when it just does something like this all on its own. Here's a look at it. Yeah, I'm almost thinking that maybe I should take it off a little more at the top, and who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it in phases like I do a lot of my trees. Man, the more I look at it, the more I really think I should. But that's okay. This tree is still in development. No need to make any rash decisions now. But anyways, let me know what you think about this. And if you've got experience with these silver maples, would love to hear it. Good, bad, and otherwise. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, please do. You'll see updates on this. You can see previous videos of this and other trees. I've got a lot of different trees. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And have a good rest of your day.